Hello everyone, and welcome to His Author's Voice. And I am the author, Jack Sanger. On my website, www.jacksanger.com, you will find one children's story called The Sim 6. It's a science fiction story, and it involves aliens and chess playing. I think I was very much influenced by watching the remarkable Queen's Gambit on Netflix. Anyway, here is my second children's story, which I wrote this afternoon. I hope you like it. Show and Tell. One dark night we were surrounded by numerous seals and penguins, which made such strange noises that the officer on watch reported he could hear the cattle bellowing on shore. On a second night we witnessed a splendid scene of natural fireworks. The masthead and yardarm ends shone with St. Elmo's light, and the form of the vane could almost be traced as if it had been rubbed with phosphorus. The sea was so highly luminous that the tracks of the penguins were marked by a fiery wake, and the darkness of the sky was momentarily illuminated by the most vivid lightning. Charles Darwin was finishing some notes in his cabin on his journey on the Beagle on July the 5th, 1832. The sea was calm, the weather was hot, and it may have been the heat that disordered his imagination, for suddenly the noise of creaking timbers and lapping waves against the bulkhead of the boat disappeared. Gone, too, were the familiar surroundings of his desk and chair, his bed and drawings pinned to the walls. For several seconds, or there might have been hours, such was his state of mind, he seemed floating in a heavy darkness. There was a whistling in his ears, and the smell of some unrecognizable odour in his nose. On July the 5th, 2432, early in the morning before class, a girl called Zanzi settled down to do some belated history homework. She was a fortunate girl because her mother was a scientist, the world's leading astrohistorian. She had many advanced tools at her disposal to explore the histories of civilizations among the stars. Zanzi could have taken the easy route and holographic library resources to support her presentation. All the other children would be doing this. Each would cast holograms into the show and tell space in the class arena, and everyone would gather round to discuss the content. But Zanzi was an unconventional, precocious 10-year-old. She had her mother's maverick streak in her. Holograms were for the base techs, and they were boring. She slipped into her mother's laboratory and looked around. On its perch, hanging over the bench, was her latest history hook and line. Zanzi carried it to her desk and set it up. Connecting it to the house power flow, she began twitching it. As usual, it caused a faint strobing of the dome's ambient lighting. She quickly punched in the coordinates. She sensed her mother hurrying to her sector, but not before Zanzi glimpsed what she had hoped. A ship's cabin, its door open, but bearing the name Charles Darwin in gold metal. "Zanzi, what are you doing? Stop that at once. That's my best hook. It's not a toy. It's not even finished yet. You know that. And it's certainly not for a child. Even you. You know you can cause all sorts of time ravelling at your age." "It's too late," said her daughter with a giggle. "I've already caught him. Look, he's just materialised." Her mother looked over her shoulder into the collection tank and saw a bewildered man in ancient clothing, shirt, waistcoat and breeches, carrying a feather which dripped small globules of black liquid. He floated at its centre, looking around him blindly. "I've done it right, Mama?" The homework asks us to research and illustrate the 18th century shipping term Shanghaied and present findings to the class. Illustrate your work with clear evidence of what Shanghaied involved. I thought I'd actually Shanghai someone myself. It's a clever joke, don't you think? Honestly, you're far beyond what I was capable of at your age. I give up, said her mother, partially resigned and partially proud of her offspring. Just make sure the poor creature goes back where he came from once you've shown him to class. And put away my hook carefully when you're finished. I sometimes don't know why I let you do this. I don't want another row. We have enough arguments already about the best way to bring you up. It's complex because I'm a genius, said Zanzi. That's just the way it is. Her mother smiled, shook her head, and left. Zanzi transferred the 18th century mail to a mobile carrier and physically presented it in the show and tell history class. All the children and the teacher were astonished and excited to see a real three-dimensional man from the period there before them, albeit reduced to a few inches tall. "Can he hear us?" cried some of the children. "Can you let him out?" "No," said Zanzi firmly. "He would die within a nanosecond. Too fast to see him get old and become bones and then dust." "Ooh," said a boy. "That sounds good." "No, Jervin, that would not be good," said the teacher. "Zanzi has brought us a living historical treasure, but he must be returned to his world. Please note his clothes, his hair. And what's that in his hand, anyone?" "A quill pen," shouted a bright spark. "Very good, Rubia, very good. You've been researching. Top marks." The teacher looked round. "I wonder what his name is." Everyone looked at Zanzi. "Charles Darwin," she said importantly. "I got his time-space coordinates from Mum's tables. The Charles Darwin. I checked his name in Old English on the door of his cabin before I shanghaied him." Everyone laughed. "Shanghaied. Very clever. How truly extraordinary you are," said her teacher. "We will learn more about this remarkable scientist in tomorrow's gathering." "Well done, Zanzi. What a joy to have you in our class, and thank your mother from all of us for being so considerate in helping you with the homework." "Yes, miss," said Zanzi with a straight face. When she got back to her desk, Zanzi transferred Charles Darwin back to the collection tank. Her mother was creating museum records with a full-spectrum hollow palette in her studio and would not appear for some time. Zanzi pursed her lips and then furtively brought in the latest prototype comlink from the laboratory to the tank. Her mother had not been able to get her invention to operate properly, though theoretically it had to be possible. She had trialled it with Zanzi looking on for hours, but she'd only managed to elicit unintelligible sounds from past worlds. Basic noises, nothing remotely recognizable as an animal's cry, never mind human speech. But Zanzi had been born different. She'd displayed telepathic characteristics even as a baby. She could read her mother's mind as soon as her language developed. Her playmates found her disconcerting in competitions because whatever strategy they used to try to defeat her, she outsmarted them. She put the Comtech nodes on her temples and stared into the container. "Hello, Charles Darwin," she said in Old English. "Can you hear me?" The nothingness surrounding him seemed to change. He was still floating, but the whistling in his ears subsided, and he found he was conscious of a strange force that held him suspended. Like uprushing air, he thought. and like I'm a feather. Then inside his head he heard the words, "Hello, Charles Darwin," in a strange accent he could not place. "It is me. Who is that?" he asked. "I am Zanzi," said the voice. "I am a girl of the future. I am 10 years old. I am going to be an astrohistorian like my mother. I have just managed to create a time bridge to you by thought alone. For homework. It's a civilization first. Remarkable, eh?" "What are you? A child who thinks like a man?" "Woman would be more apt. There are only women in my time, actually. It is the year 2432. Hundreds of years in the future, from your day." "Future? Only women? What is the import of such talk?" he muttered. "Parthenogenesis. Human society gave up on males a long time ago now. Genetic engineering. Destruction of Earth's ecology and wars were such a male thing. Since then our brains have evolved exponentially." "Evolved? It is not credible in God's name." "Survival of the fittest. Males became dispensable." "Oops! We're reaching the limit of your transfer tolerance. I'm sending you back before you come to harm. Goodbye, Charles." "Goodbye, Zanzi. 10 years old? Are you a child of the occult?" Then he was back in a conscious awareness at his desk, though he could not recollect what had just passed, save for a girl child. What had she said? Captain Fitzroy poked his head round Charles Darwin's cabin door. "Oh, where have you been? Your cabin was empty a few moments ago." "I was travelling in the astral, I think. Like native shamans." "You're a strange one, Charles. But it's why I invited you aboard, I suppose. It's odd I never passed you in the gangway. Are you all right? You look adrift." "I think so. I just must make a note or two before I forget." Fitzroy shook his head and left him to it. Charles looked at the quill and then the blank sheet on his desk. He scribbled the words evolution and survival of the fittest, and then leant back in his chair, looking at his scattered drawings of animals, birds and insects pinned to the oak panelling. Well, that was Show and Tell, another short sci-fi tale. I hope you did like it, and you will find more short stories, novels and plays and some Zen non-fiction on my website, which is www.jacksanger.com. Please let your children, whatever age they may be, listen to it as well, and tell people about this podcast site. Thank you very much. It's all for now. Bye-bye.